right, you're watching the Asset Preservation Hour. I'm Joe Wilson, joined with my good friend Stewart Willis. Stewart, we have to address the most recent inflation print coming from the Bureau of Statistics here, 9+%. What is the modern retiree supposed to do with a 9+% print on inflation?
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, I think, it's that hidden tax. It's that, tax people don't talk about.
Right.
No, it's scary. It's very scary. I mean, people are realizing, a lot of these people that have been off to the side in the market, they've had all their money in cash or in cash positions. Their money is now losing 8 or 9%. Now that, the cost of inflation
Correct.
is separating from what their actual yield is on that money. So
it's almost a safe way to lose money.
Right. It's guaranteed. It's like the Chinese water torture of death there.
Yeah.
Just drip, 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 it's going.
I think what's important, and you were talking to me about this at lunch today, when you look at the average inflation rate of 9%, that could be a little bit different here in Phoenix. I mean, this is a little bit different part of the United States of America, a little different than the Midwest or the South. There are some things in the market, some inflationary products and things that people are spending their money on, that's significantly more than 9%. Really, when it comes to retirement planning, I know what you mentioned to me at lunch, it's about the personal inflation rate and how that affects their personal financial plan.
Yeah, I think a lot of people based all of their plans on much lower inflation rates. Look, historically, we were looking at between 2–2.5% for most of the assumptions we made. And quite honestly, a lot of people relied on the government's, words on inflation where they said it was transitory. I mean, clearly now we realize it isn't, right?
Yes.
Are we at peak inflation now? Is it going to start tailing over? We see no signs of that, Joe. Until they do something about fuel costs.
Right.
Because just remember, fuel costs are what are stimulating all of these other problems. I mean, listen, energy is a huge part of our economy.
Massive.
And honestly, I think most economists believe it's being underweighted properly in the CPI. So although it's a massive inflation number, we think it may actually be substantially higher if fuel prices were properly weighted. So I guess at the end of the day, the question is, what does that matter? How is that important to an individual investor?
Well, if you're traveling and driving around this town and it's lovely traffic, I mean, that's a very impactful part to your retirement plan. If you're going to go around and play some golf, you're going to spend some money in fuel. And it's amazing to me how we like to just deal in the averages, the big box Wall Street firms, but a lot of folks' personal inflation rate's a lot higher than 9%.
Yeah, so I have, Jennifer's my amazing personal assistant. She travels with me wherever I go, to whether I'm in the Sun City office, the Tempe office, or in Scottsdale. And so, to me, it was just kind of a normal thing, right? Fuel was inexpensive, no big deal. But now that we're seeing $5–6 a gallon for gas.
A little different animal.
Right? I mean, now I'm saying, here, go ahead and take my card and fill up your tank, trying to be a good guy about it all, because I can't, it's not fair to have her have to pay for her own fuel to do her job, right? It's the cost of doing business.
Right.
And so I try to be sensitive to those things where, a lot of people made their, their assumptions for work based on the cost of fuel like it was in the past. Things have changed. So what we're seeing is people are starting to look at commuting less, at working closer, to their home. And people are willing to take, even pay decreases to accomplish that, too.
Correct. It's definitely shifting the consumer's behavior. I think this is interesting, and one of your team members in the Tempe office brought this up to me. At a 6% inflation rate, your income needs doubles every 12 years. So someone's walking into retirement, let's say, as you said, maybe inflation tempers back from 9% to 6%. They're still looking 12 years, that income need, if they're planning on $100,000 a year out of their retirement accounts, doubling in 12 years.
It's unbelievable. So what does that do? That starts saying either A, you need twice the amount of money to retire, right? So all of the assumptions you have, throw them away, they're garbage.
Right.
Or you're going to need to take, get twice the amount of return. So what happens? What does it take to get more return?
Usually more risk. More
risk, right? So that's precisely the time you need less risk. As you start getting closer to retirement, typically what you want to do is take some risk off the table. And I think that what this is doing is putting a lot of people in jeopardy. Listen, I've had to have the real conversation over the last, 6 months and year with clients that were anticipating retiring here over the next year or two. Quite honestly, we have to see what happens with inflation first, because I'm not comfortable saying yes in all cases.
Right.
Where they were done, they were checked out, ready to go, right?
It's just more expensive to live.
Take this job and shove it. They were ready to get out the door. Not anymore, because we have so many new variables out there. The cost of living has just gone through the roof. So I think it's really important for you to assess what kind of risk you're taking in your portfolio. What has your advisor done to adjust, for these new inflationary needs? Are they adjusting? Are they pulling back? Are they hitting the gas, the brakes? What are they doing?
Well, it's interesting hearing you talk that really what you're talking about is your personal income plan. And I know that's what you guys do at your office so well. When that modern retiree is coming in to retire, you really help them understand, here's your personal income plan. And you factored in what inflation could be and things of that nature. And it's ongoing in reviewing. Because the issue is it's hard to stay retired if you don't have your necessities met. And if you have to have those necessities, and it has to be part of your income plan, and you have to plan for inflation.
Yeah, so we cash flow out all of our clients' needs. So we really test out all of the needs. But remember, all those plans we did last year, they're garbage now. They're worthless because the assumptions we made are totally different, right? I had a friend, my mentor in this business, he used to say, sometimes you need to just shake your Etch-a-Sketch and start over. It's kind of where we are right now. We're in a whole different world than we were.
Definitely is.
Because I think so many people, have been making decisions during easy times.
Well, it has been easy. Fed's been easy, helicopter money, backing up money and dropping interest rates, and it's just a different world.
Yeah, easy times. Well, the easy button works in easy times, right?
That's right.
That's your quote. And at the end of the day, I think people, these do-it-yourselfers, have been able to rely on just these amazing markets carrying them through. Well, now, when we see this stagflationary environment where things are getting more expensive, but the markets aren't doing well, they're going backwards. Not only is stock market going down, so is the bond market in these rising interest rate environments.
Worst market since '81 in the bond market.
It's crazy, right? Worst start to the year, since the Great Depression.
That's right.
Second worst ever for the stock market.
And inflation at an all-time high.
Unbelievable. So we are in crazy times right now. And I think if, as an audience, you're concerned about what kind of risks you're taking, is your plan going to keep up with the cost of inflation? What we're offering the audience today is a complimentary portfolio review. But you have to take action today. You give us a call at 833-652-7829, or even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. That'll take you to apsitaxes.com. We'd be glad to give you that complimentary review.
Folks, you get one shot at retirement, and in these inflationary times and crazy market volatility, you owe it to yourself and your family to have your retirement planned out so you know you can be and stay retirement ready. Stewart and his team are standing and willing to help you be retirement ready.
Call 833-652-7829 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Why take a necessary risk when you don't have to? When nearing retirement, are you still driving your investment accounts like you were in your 30s or 40s? Have you changed your investment elections since you first chose them? Do you truly understand the risk associated with your investments? Call Stewart and his team at 833-652-7829 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Do you know exactly how much risk you're taking in your investment accounts? Now that you've accumulated a nest egg for retirement, you want to be certain the risk you're taking in those investments matches your goals and objectives. Call Stewart and his team, 833-652-7829 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Or use the QR code below to begin scheduling your appointment. You may not have time to recover from taking too much risk.
Phoenix, you're watching the Asset Preservation Hour with the man, the myth, the legend, Stewart Willis. Stewart, we have to talk about, with the amazing run we've seen in these markets over the past decade plus, and then the absolute smack-in-the-face headwinds, the risk in this market. It is risky business for the modern retiree right now.
It is, absolutely. I think people have relied on the returns of the market here to remain constant, right? I think people have become desensitized to risk. For 10 years, 12 years, a blind chicken could have made money, and right? I mean, I say it. I mean, and with all due respect to the do-it-yourselfers, everyone's made money.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a genius, right?
It's been easy.
You can talk about Tesla and Facebook and Amazon and all these great companies, and people like to, get involved in the nitty-gritty there. But at the end of the day, everyone's made money. It hasn't taken a genius. I think right now that we're seeing this incredible amount of volatility out there, now that's really separating the good from the bad.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you look, I think, and we were talking about this earlier, what you're seeing from folks calling in off the show and off of everything that you guys are doing here in the Phoenix area, you're seeing these portfolios come in daily, and the amount of hidden risk sitting inside these portfolios is just astronomical.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the risks people are taking, they don't even realize they're taking. And I think, obviously, we have a few answers of, how to get around that risk, how to reduce it.
We were talking in the Tempe office, and one of your advisors was going through, you had someone that came in that had about 40% of their money in just a long-term Treasury ETF.
Yep.
It's AAA rated. It's the U.S. Treasury, 20 years. It's Wall Street saying safe money.
Well, yeah, remember, everybody refers to that 10-year Treasury and the 20-year Treasury as the risk-free rate of return.
That's correct.
Risk-free.
Risk-free. And so that's been the verbiage, and that's what's been sold. So you're seeing these folks come in with a massive amount of this safer investment. But the reality is, money is not safe if it can go and lose. And so this just blew me away. It's only yielding 1.96%. That's what that portfolio is yielding on a 20-year Treasury. That's not even touching what's going on with inflation right now. And it's down year-to-date, mid-year, over 20%. That is an absolute wrecking ball of volatility and risk. And like we said earlier, it's hidden. People don't realize the risk they're seeing in the bond market right now.
Yeah, so what we try to measure is the risk versus reward that you're taking, right? So remember, you can't expect the full risk or the full return of the market if you're not taking the full risk.
That's absolutely right. Correct.
Right? It's just not fair to assume that you can get that kind of return without the risk.
It's impossible.
But when you're in what is classically considered risk-free assets, and you're losing 20%, now that's a problem. Something's broken.
Something's broken.
Right? Is it worth a 1.9% rate of return for a 20% downside?
That's right. That's right.
I don't know. I think there's other solutions that, that can handle those sort of fixed asset classes. I think there's way more risk in people's portfolio than they expect.
And you're seeing this because so many folks are now entering that retirement, generic term, red zone, if you will. They've been working all these years. You're starting to see this baby boomer generation crossing over more now than ever into that retirement threshold. And yet so many of their assets are in old 401ks and old IRAs that they haven't looked at. And they're saying, hey, I'm in the S&P 500. I've got some money in some bond funds and I'm good. And off we go. And they just haven't looked at it until this market shifted and they're getting rocked.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a whole different world right now. And I think most people will look at their portfolios and say, hey, I've got 15 different funds here. I'm well diversified. But I have to tell you, I think diversification is probably the most misunderstood part.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so, I think most people, when they talk about diversification, they're talking about a diversification of asset classes, a diversification of investments. Now, a diversification of investments is not just having 100 different pieces. It's about making sure that each of those pieces in your portfolio have a different role. If the market goes up and this fund does this, you want this fund to do something differently, right? If they all react identically to the same stimulus in the market, their correlation is identical. You want them to have different roles in your portfolio. And so what we often see when we do our in-depth portfolio analysis is we see that, these two funds are all doing the same thing. Sometimes we see 10, 15, 20 of the funds that all do identical things. They have different names, but if they're all big cap this or they're all
overlapped.
Yeah, they're just complete overlap. So I think a diversification of your investments is the most important thing to look at. But that's not where it ends. That's just where it begins. We think it's also important to make sure you have a diversification of perspectives. Now, what I mean by that, Joe, is that most clients are dealing with a financial advisor if they have one. If they're not dealing with one, they only have a single perspective. It's their own.
It's their perspective.
Right? My question is, what if you or your financial advisor is wrong, right? If you're sitting with an advisor that's picking all of your funds for you, just ask yourself that simple question. What if he is wrong? Now, at Asset Preservation, we've taken a completely different approach. What we do at our company is we hire multiple money managers. Now, here's the thing. We have the biggest money manager in the world that oversees some of our portfolios. We have an algorithm money manager. We have a great guy named David Young out of Newport Beach. Phenomenal guy. He was with one of the top bond houses in the world for 14 years. Phenomenal guy. We have Darren Levitt, our chief investment officer. These are all brilliant people, much smarter than me at picking positions. But here's the thing. We don't overcommit to any one position, because if one of them is wrong,
that's right,
it doesn't fold the whole house of cards.
And that's the risky business.
That's it. Listen, I jokingly say, listen, I went to one of the best public universities in the world. When I got there, I realized I wasn't the smartest guy there. I thought I was going into there, and I realized quickly I wasn't. The most dangerous advisor, and let me tell you directly, the most dangerous advisor is the advisor that thinks he's smarter than he really is. You need humility. You need to be comfortable making sure you have other people overseeing your work. But listen, a lot of these advisors, it's just way less expensive for them personally to do it themselves.
Well, that's a big point right there.
You hire a guy down the hall, for $100 grand, and he can manage all your portfolios.
And if he gets it wrong,
right? We're spending, over $1 million a year on money managers out of our firm.
That's right.
Why? Because we want the best in the world that we can find. We don't want the least expensive for us. We want the best. So that if somebody gets it wrong, it doesn't fold all of your life's work. It's just way too much risk.
Folks, you get one shot at retirement, and this is the opportunity right now that Stewart and his team are standing by waiting for you so you can have a complimentary, no obligation, complimentary review. Retirement ready. You have one shot at being ready for retirement. And in this report, when you dial 833-652-7829, or take your phone out and focus in on that QR code and take you to a landing page where you can fill out some information. You deserve a risk analysis, a detailed risk analysis to see where your hidden risks are sitting right now in your retirement savings. But to do that, I need you to act. Stewart, any final words?
Listen, take control of your retirement. We are here to help.
Call 833-652-7829 now to receive your complimentary tax map with your retirement readiness review. Learn multiple strategies that can protect you from higher taxes now and in the future. Taxes are a threat to your financial stability in retirement. Protect yourself from the potential threat of rising taxes. As a retirement planning financial advisory firm, Stewart and his team will help you navigate the financial waters to pursue your retirement goals. Call 833-652-7829 today. Stewart and his team provide inclusive retirement services such as investment directives for your portfolio, income-producing strategies, and wealth preservation plans for your family and legacy. Call Stewart and his team, 833-652-7829 now for your complimentary tax map with your retirement readiness review. Discover tax strategies to keep more of what you have saved in retirement, or use the QR code below to schedule today.
Phoenix, you're watching the Asset Preservation Hour with Stewart Willis. I'm Joe Wilson. Stewart, we've got a little window here talking to you and your team. Man, you guys are all over this tax thing. We've got to talk about the current tax environment and the changes that are staring us right down the road.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We are, and I've said it multiple times, we are in the most efficient tax window in history right now. Don't care if you love Trump, don't care if you hate Trump. During the Trump tax cuts, we saw some of the biggest tax cuts to the middle class we've ever seen. Now, remember, at the end of 2025, those tax cuts are going to sunset. So, Joe,
just a few months away, really,
few
handful of
years.
months away.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is say, look, you need to take advantage of this window because it's closing.
It is closing.
Listen, a lot of our clients have done what they were supposed to do. They did their job. They put their money tax deferred away because they were told that essentially they would be making less money in retirement than when they were working, so they'd pay less taxes. And it's a faulty logic.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. When you look at what we have done just in the national debt, I was doing some analysis because this just fascinates me because I heard you talking about this. One thing I looked up, 1980, you know what our national debt was? It was $908 billion. We're $30 trillion today in debt. We were at $20 trillion 4 short years ago. Do you have any of your clients that think taxes are going to be lower?
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's get real. When Trump was able to lower taxes, he did it during the greatest economy, greatest stock market in history. Way easier to do. Now we have a horrendous economy. And, when we have a bad economy and inflation still, that's a really nasty mix.
Tough. Yeah.
Stagflation is a scary place.
It is.
Right? It's kind of like an airplane that's lost its engine, right? And it's trying to fly backwards.
Just fluttering through.
Right? It's a mess. And so I think right now, listen, there are a couple things that you can do to take advantage of where we are. Once again, if you take advantage of this specific window of time, you will love it for the rest of your life. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes, people don't even consider taxes in their tax plan. Most financial advisors say,
that's right.
We've talked about Roth all the time, and people will say, well, I talked to my financial advisor about a Roth conversion because we watch your TV show, and the financial advisor says, oh, well, go talk to your CPA. The CPA says, talk to your financial advisor.
No one can get on the same page.
Yeah, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
That's what's so great about your practice. You guys do taxes. You do tax planning.
Yeah, listen, running a tax operation is the biggest headache in the world. And I don't do it to make profits. We lose money running a tax office. We do it because we can gather some of the best data possible on your specific situation. Here's what I mean specifically. So let's say that you have a certain amount of earned income, capital gains, dividends, IRA distributions. We can create financial models adding in additional IRA income, for example, from a Roth conversion, because most people realize that tax brackets work in kind of funny ways. So going from the 10% to 12% bracket, to me, is a small jump. 12 to 22 is a huge jump.
Big jump.
22 to 24 is a small jump, and then 24 to 32 is a huge jump. So you generally want to avoid those huge jumps. But what people don't understand, a lot of the do-it-yourselfers try to listen to us and do it themselves. The reason that's dangerous, because there's a lot of little landmines out there that you may not be aware of. For example, the net investment income tax. People know it as a Romney tax. It's that tax when you have over a certain dollar amount of income, then other sort of passive sources of income become taxable.
That's right.
And it can add an additional tax. Not only that, right between the 22 and 24% tax brackets is something called IRMA. That's that penalty on Medicare. So you just really want to be careful when it comes time to tax planning. And we always tell people, if you're doing tax planning during tax season, you're making a tremendous mistake. Because listen, God bless them, Joe. These tax professionals work their tails off during tax season. They're working 10, 12, 15-hour days to try to get these taxes done by April 15th. But they're working so much, they become like zombies. They're just trying to get these tax returns done. They're in a rush. You don't want to be in a rush when it comes time to your tax planning. You want to be able to be calm, spend time, be deliberate with your planning, and really make sure that they're looking out for your best interest.
Stewart, we've got so many of these folks that are watching this show, in just the statistics of the modern retiree. There's so many folks that are getting ready to cross over that retirement threshold and begin their retirement. And they save so much money in their IRAs and their 401ks. And I think what's so important is we're talking about taxes. You can only spend in retirement after tax dollars. And so if we're seeing taxes going up and we're seeing the national debt continue to run out of control, we have no idea what Congress and legislative risk can do. That's why it's so important to work with a comprehensive financial planning firm like yourselves that can do this entire thing and look at it as a whole. Talk to us right now about the impact you're seeing on folks that are taking I love that you call it this, your Roth conversion challenge.
Yeah, so well, first of all, the Roth conversion challenge is asset preservation challenging you to find out whether or not the Roth conversion makes sense for you, okay? Now, what the Roth conversion challenge is, what a Roth conversion is, it's about once you have an IRA or a 401k, you can actually convert your retirement accounts, pay the taxes now so that you don't have to pay them later. Now, the argument that we're making is that in many cases, if you pay the taxes now before you retire, even though you're still working now, the 24% bracket, remember, it's going to revert to, to the 28 to 33% bracket.
Right.
So we're going to see a much higher bracket down the road anyways. And remember, Social Security. Social Security doesn't have to be taxed in all cases, but up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed because it looks at all of your other taxable earning. When they look at your provisional income, which determines the taxation on Social Security, what's included in that is your capital gains, your dividends, any wages, right? Any IRA distributions, your pensions, your 457s, thrift savings plans, all of those income sources are added together and plus 50% of your Social Security benefit. If it crosses the threshold of $25,000 as an individual, 50% of your Social Security benefits taxable. Up to 85 becomes taxable. But with the Roth, it's completely invisible to the Social Security system. It doesn't affect taxation on Social Security. So you're coming into us to plan for the $500,000, the million, the $2 million you've saved. Why not plan on plan around the $1 million you have on Social Security? For us, it's a tremendous mistake. If you want help, if you're concerned that you may be building this tax time bomb, I say it's time to reach out. Give us a call. For the first 20 callers, if you give us a call at 833-652-7829, or even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code, we offer you the complimentary portfolio review. But you have to take advantage of it today.
Call 833-652-7829 now to receive your complimentary tax map with your retirement readiness review. Learn multiple strategies that can protect you from higher taxes now and in the future. Taxes are a threat to your financial stability in retirement. Protect yourself from the potential threat of rising taxes. As a retirement planning financial advisory firm, Stewart and his team will help you navigate the financial waters to pursue your retirement goals. Call 833-652-7829 today. Stewart and his team provide inclusive retirement services such as investment directives for your portfolio, income-producing strategies, and wealth preservation plans for your family and legacy. Call Stewart and his team, 833-652-7829 now for your complimentary tax map with your retirement readiness review. Discover tax strategies to keep more of what you have saved in retirement, or use the QR code below to schedule today.